Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jason and you're watching Jason Jensen Trains. In today's video, we're going to do a kit bash using two kits from Fosscalemodels to create a diner for the new section of the layout that's going to go right next to Swordfish Hotel. All right, well, we have a lot to do, so let's get to it. So for our kit bash, we are using two kits from Fosscalemodels. We are using the kit of the month, the September 2020 Route 9 Diner. And that sits right here. Then we're using Mulder's Diner right here, and that sits right there. And you can see the windows match up. It's going to match up nice, and we'll paint it all to match, and it'll just look like one entire kit. It'll look very natural. All right, so let's get started. We're going to start off by building Mulder's Diner. So here are the instructions for it. You can see here it's pretty simple. 4 walls. So I have my parts laid out, my 2 end walls, the back wall, and the storefront. So the storefront is 2 pieces. We'll glue those together and then we build it up. There's a beam that goes across the top, and then we have our columns that go on there. Now that all of our pieces are filed, let's start gluing it together. I want to smooth out that glue so that it's evenly spread. In doing this, you can feel it start to get really sticky. Now very carefully join the two together. Now we'll set the front wall aside and make up the 2 side walls. So the bottom is the ascribed wood and the top is just task board. I forgot to file the task board. Okay. Now we're going to carefully flip these over
and brace the back of them. So I'm just cutting 4 pieces for each end. Now I want to add some bracing on this before I paint it so that it doesn't curl up. And what I'm going to do is, I know that the bracing that I put on the sidewalls fits like this on the back wall. That's our top piece. You know, I'm just going to cut the same length for the bottom. The door will hide the piece at the bottom. So I just read the instructions, and which you should always do, and I need to add corner trim to this back wall. See, it's a hair, well, it's a 1/16 inch shorter on each side. So we'll add that trim, and that'll make it the same exact length as the front wall. So I'm going to let these pieces dry really well before I start to paint them. So let's move on to our other kit. And we'll get out our instructions and our pieces. So again, this is what we're building. Very simple instructions. Here it shows the order that the walls go. Shows you bracing. So let's get started by joining these 2 walls together. So by tapping on it, it sort of levels out the glue and also makes it very sticky. So you'll notice when I squeeze these together, no glue is seeping out into the cracks and where I don't want it to be. Now I should mention, if you want to do 2 colors like how they have it in the picture, paint those first before you glue it together. Way easier to do it that way. Next, we're working on the little pop-out structure right there on the side. So I've cut my walls out, and again, I'm going to file everything. Sorry, I've got dried glue on my fingers. Oh well. The life of a modeler. I've mentioned it before, but I'll say it again. Files are so important to have on your workbench. So helpful. By filing all these sides flat, you're assuring that it's going to fit together nice and tight and square. Okay, now these walls get braced right here. So you can see the orange is the bracing, and then the green is the 1/16 inch corner trim. So I don't know if you noticed, I cut that. I will show you quick. I had to cut that at a slight angle. So it was like that. So then what I'll do is take the piece on this side and flip it and match that angle at the top, and then just cut the bottom straight. Something you probably already do, I'm sure, but maybe some beginners are watching, and a little neat trick. Okay, we'll do the same on this one. And this one we'll just put one sort of in the middle. Okay, so my walls are all braced. I've got my corner trim glued on. I even added the corner trim on this piece on each side. I'm able to glue my corner trim on now because I'm going to make it all one solid color. I'm not doing two different colors. So again, if you're doing it like this, you're going to want to paint your pieces separately. Okay, and then these two get cut out for the roof. You can see right here, they go right there in the middle for the supports. Okay, well, I was sort of getting in a hurry and I forgot the back wall. And then we have another little pop out that we have to brace and put some corner trim on. So let's quick do that. Okay, now all the walls are braced, corner trim is put on. We are ready to start painting these. And then after these get painted and completely weathered, the next step, which is very important, is to add acetate to the back of all these walls before we start to assemble it. So if you start to see me assembling these walls before the acetate is in there, you yell at your screen to me. Okay, to paint the walls, we're going to start with a base color of desert turquoise. Then after it's completely dry, we'll do some dry brushing with baby blue. Then the next step, we'll brush on some murky brown. Okay, so as you can see, our base coat is completed. This back wall we don't need to paint, and we don't need to paint this one either. So next we're going to take baby blue, and I'm going to use my dirty palette, and we're going to create a wash. And I gotta shake this. I might do this over here. Okay, so I got a bunch of water. It's dirty, but that's okay. Now I'm going to try this maybe on this wall first. So I'm just going for a faded look. And as you can see, when it dries, it's not so white looking. Okay, that is done. All right, those are completely dry, and now we're going to go over it with murky brown. You can see the difference. I really like the way that looks. Really gives it an aged look. We'll see how the stain works on the task board. It may want to warp it a little bit. Slightly. We'll let it dry and then bend it. I almost forgot. The next step is to do some chipped paint on it to make it look like the wood is showing through. So I'm going to use iced coffee. Hold on, let me switch the light behind me so you can see this better. And we can even go in with a tiny brush. I might grab a new one. Can really get the edges with this. And let's also use desert sand. So now in the places where we put those chips with the iced coffee, now we can highlight those maybe a little bit more with a lighter color. So I just took some of the murky brown and put it in the corners just to dirty it up a little bit. So I'm making some progress on the walls. Next we need to rust some signs to put on the outside. So I'm using bittersweet chocolate. And we want very little dots. Alright, next we're going to take medium rust pigments. It's just a fine powder. So dip your brush in it, tap it off on the side, and then in one direction. You're just going to make some streaks on it. Now we'll take our bittersweet chocolate again in our small brush. And we'll just paint the edges. Just to get rid of that paper look. Okay, now we'll glue some of these signs on the walls. And we can even take our fine, I don't know if you can see that, focus, and put some little nail holes. Okay, let's start to glue some of our walls together. And we'll start with our first structure here. Okay, now that this is dry, there was 2 corner posts. They were for bracing the walls. And now that it's all dry, I don't need those because they were showing in the front. So I just simply remove that. Now there's one over there, you can see it inside the window. And we're just going to carefully cut that out. Just using a straight razor. Very slow, very carefully. I should have done this before I glued it maybe, but oh well. Now we'll take a wet brush and clean that glue off the window. Okay. Okay, next we're going to glue the next structure next to it. Now you could use 16th inch strip wood for a little bracing inside, but I think I am going to just super glue this together. The roof will give it more support. We'll see if this works. So I'm just lining it up on my grid. Alright, now we're just going to hold that for a second. Okay, now we'll do the back side. Again, we'll line it up on our grid so that we know it's square. All right, it's really coming together. Okay, let's glue these together. Next, we are moving on to the roof guards. So there's a small one made of task board for that roof. Task board on this one. Then for this one, it has to be curved a little bit. And we'll glue that on there. And then for this structure here, we are making this. So it just folds up. It's all pre-cut for you. The supports in the middle there are a task board. I'm going pretty heavy with the glue because you'll see once we put it on there, we can wipe it and sort of seal the crack. So just very gently wipe over it and it leaves the glue in the crack and it seals it. Okay, so we have to paint the underside of all of these and the edges to match our blue color that we have on there. But to show you, this goes on there. And then that sits on top of it. So I've painted the underside of all the roof cards and the edges the desert turquoise. Now we'll put a wash of murky brown over it. So I took some black construction paper and took some gray spray paint and just sprayed over it. Heavier in some spots, lighter in others. You can see kind of spotty. So then I just cut it into strips and glued those on. Now we will take some sandpaper. I'm using 150 grit. Next, we have to take some strips and put them down the edges. So I cut 4 thin ones. Now we have to fold them in half. So I've got a strip there. I'm going to put my ruler covering half of it. Take my blade. Okay, we've got that folded in half. Well, as you can see, the roof is all done. Now I've added a couple pipes that came in the kit, and as you can see, I've also added all of the signs. Now I simply switched the signs. This sign was meant for this structure, and this sign was meant to go for here. So I just flipped them. This was a simple kit bash. I basically put 2 structures side by side. Let me review with you. This structure here is, again, from Atlas Gorge, and it is right there. Just a simple rectangle building. Then the structure here is from the Kit of the Month Club, and I simply took the side structure off. Now that little side structure was moved to the back. So again, very simple kit bashing. And it's easy when you're using 2 or more kits from the same company. The windows and doors all line up. They're all the same height. And it just makes it a lot easier when you're using kits from the same company. So, well, that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, and until next time, stay motivated and happy modeling, everyone.